In this video, I will show that Pathfinder 2nd Edition can be hard, and what you should do to try to defeat the challenges you encounter in it. Now, this is deliberately seeming to contradict my first video, where I said that Pathfinder 2nd Edition can be easy, and I mean hard in this video in a different sense. First, Pathfinder 2nd Edition may seem to some to be overly complicated when actually it's not. And I think with a good teacher or with the beginner box, one can easily learn how to play it. And that's what I hope these videos can serve to do. But at the same time, Pathfinder 2nd Edition can be challenging. The monsters, encounters that you have in it are going to be more difficult than what players will expect who come from Pathfinder 1st Edition or D&D 5th Edition. And I want to show how that's true, and also what you and your players can do to meet the challenges that you'll face. Now, I game master about 6 campaigns in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and there may be 6 more that have wrapped up or ended for other reasons. And I will be going over strategies and tactics in 2 videos. This is the first of 2. In this first video, focusing on what all characters, regardless of their class and feats, can do to bring success in Pathfinder. And the second video will have higher level characters who have more feats and what they are doing and how they are using that to succeed. So first, like and subscribe. My name is Ronald and I'm a lawyer, and I also teach and run tabletop role-playing games with children, and am focused on making videos that popularize and help teach Pathfinder 2nd Edition to others. So first, I'll go over a few assumptions that players may have coming from other editions that might increase the difficulty of Pathfinder 2nd Edition unnecessarily. Then second, I will go over some general advice. Then third, demonstrate that advice and specific things you can do in Pathfinder 2e through a demonstration combat. Now, players who come from D&D 5th Edition, which I GM to this day, and also Pathfinder 1st Edition, which I GM'd for 9 years, often have a habit of focusing all 3 of their actions on attacking to do damage, to kill the enemy as quickly as possible. Now, that is often the best thing to do in other systems because a dead enemy will not fight back. And often the focus is on making a build before game day that can do as much damage to an enemy as quickly as possible. Damage per second, to borrow a video game term. But in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it's much less about the build you bring to the table and much more about the tactics that you and your fellow players use with your characters in play. And it's also much more about not the build of an individual character, but the build of the party, how you work together. And I hope to demonstrate that through the examples. So on to the general advice. The first thing is to make sure that after a combat, you heal up as much as possible, and if possible, be at full health. Pathfinder 2e, through the medicine skill and some class abilities, gives parties the ability to recover from their wounds so they can be at near full health in the next battle. Whereas other systems balance around an adventuring day, Pathfinder 2e balances around the individual encounter. And it's part of why Pathfinder 2E is well known for giving GMs the ability to make balanced encounters, because the assumption is that parties will be at full health, and the tools are given to player characters to do that. Next is been discussed a lot in the Pathfinder 2E community as of late, and it's something I call the third action problem. The big obstacle that comes up with the habit of attacking as much as you can every turn is the multiple attack penalty. If you attack more than once in a turn, your second attack will have a -5 penalty, and your third and subsequent attacks will have the -10 penalty. You can mitigate this to some extent, but in general, what this means is that making a third attack is often less useful than doing other things that do not suffer from the multiple attack penalty. And so I'm just going to put up on the screen briefly a set of things that can be done instead. That will be demonstrated in the examples that I'll be giving. That often, I would almost say it's a mantra that you want to do these things instead if you're a new player, and break out of that habit of spending only your all three of your actions to attack. The next thing is to work together. You want to be a unit. And when you pass your turn, you want to be seeing what other people are doing to see opportunities for you to use your abilities, to think collectively about the problem you're facing, to think about strategies such as how you want to engage with the enemy. Maybe you want to use the terrain to your advantage. Maybe you have an enemy that has a specific weakness, and so you want to exploit that weakness, be it weakness to a particular type of damage, or maybe it is very resistant to, maybe it has a resistance to damage, and you want to combine your abilities together as a party to make a single instance of much greater damage. Or maybe it's very slow, like the zombie in my last video. Maybe you want to kite the enemy. Maybe you want to dart in, make a strike at it, and then dart away and force the enemy to waste actions on trying to get into melee range with you. Things like that. Now, then that carries over to specific tactics. You'll want to pay attention between your turns, and also and think of opportunities for someone else to do something that sets you up for success. And also on your turn, what can you do to set up another character for success? So it's much less about individual damage and much more about what can the group do together to help each other defeat the enemy. Next is hero points, which I have not used in any of my videos so far, but they are the default assumption in Pathfinder 2E. And it took me a while to get in the habit of rewarding hero points at least as often as the core rules recommend, which is once per hour to the party. Hero points are crucial. First, they can prevent death by allowing a character to stabilize instead of die while they are bleeding out. And also, they give the players the opportunity to re-roll a check after rolling. And these are the default assumption. The game assumes the party has these, and this is often a culprit for groups who are reporting that Pathfinder 2E is too difficult. They may not be getting enough hero points. And for tough battles like the one we're about to see, the GM will want to be more generous with them than usual. Then Pathfinder 2E, often the archetypal experience of a difficult combat in Pathfinder 2E is going up against an enemy that is higher level than the party. And just to say, even a monster that is the same level as the party is going to be more difficult than what players will expect. And it's because the monsters in Pathfinder 2e actually will have higher armor classes and higher attack bonuses and higher defenses than the party will. And that is to compensate for the fact that monsters in any tabletop role-playing game will have less versatility than player characters. They'll also have less in-combat healing. They'll have less opportunity to adapt to various challenges. And to compensate for that lack of versatility, they have greater raw numbers. And this is going to be doubly true, triply true when you have a monster that is 1 level higher than the party's level, 2 levels higher than the party's level. And for that reason, it's going to be very important for the party to do what it can to deny actions to what I'll call a boss monster, because that boss monster will have 3 actions and a party of 4 characters will have 12 actions. If the party can spend 2 actions to deny that boss character 1 action, that is a net relative gain for the party, and it's worth doing. And additionally, it's going to be important to stack your bonuses, to get that bless spell in, to move to flank, so that you can reach those higher numbers that you need against the boss. I would also add that the fact that at-level monsters have higher statistics than player characters is mathematical proof that the system presumes some level of synergy and buffing and tactics by the party. Now, if you want a more casual game, it's easy to adjust the difficulty down with the encounter balancing system in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So with that said, we're going to proceed with our encounter, and we're going to have a giant scorpion, a level 3 monster facing a level 1 party. Our level 1 party now has been joined by Ezran, the iconic wizard, and I'll have a link to his character sheet and links to the other character sheets in the description. I've just made a slight revision to his spells from his pre-generated character from Pathfinder Society for the purpose of this demonstration. And so we have the classic party of fighter, rogue, cleric, which we have featured in the previous videos, and now a wizard. A level 1 party facing a level 3 monster is what is called a moderate encounter. Moderate encounters will use some of the party's resources. They will need to use tactics to defeat. And I would say that using a single monster that's 2 levels higher than the party is much tougher than what many players coming from other editions will expect, and we will see that in this demonstration. And in fact, it should be noted that in the table from the core rulebook, that a party level +2 monster is noted as a moderate or severe threat boss. So that is the designer's warning that this will feel like possibly a severe encounter, and in my experience, sometimes even harder than that when facing a first level party. And that is what we're going to have here. I will say that this battle will give an impression that this edition is way too tough, and I accept that. But it's also a demonstration of the I think that the first adventures that were released by the Paizo designers, which featured a lot of such encounters as level props, probably tuned too high, and the more recent adventures have been less have been doing that less. And so I think the designers have listened to the players, and the published adventures are a little gentler in this regard. Yet I use this example because those published adventures are out there, and GMs are going to use them, likely going to use them. And if I were the GM, I would use them sparingly and with extreme caution, and treat it as a boss encounter, maybe the capstone of a dungeon at level 1, and even to do that with some hesitation. But here we are, a giant scorpion. So to begin, I think that the party should be thinking about what to do before battle begins and talking. If they can know what monster they're going to face in advance, the party should try to recall knowledge using their skills so they can find out what its special attacks might be, its weaknesses. Because if they were to wait until battle starts, it costs an action to recall knowledge. And more than other editions, including more than Pathfinder 1st edition, weaknesses and knowing attack patterns of monsters is more important in Pathfinder 2nd edition. And there really is a premium for knowing for using recall knowledge. And I hope I can show that here. But before initiative is rolled, it's, if possible, try to get that information beforehand so you're not having to use your actions during the encounter. And it's also good to plan if you can get some advanced information. In this case, they see a giant scorpion that is sheltering itself from the midday sun, and they hope to approach it because they have a rogue in their party who would like to get close enough to use her surprise attack ability, which I showed in the last video. Also, they position themselves so that the fighter, who also has a shield and will be using the defend exploration activity, so have his shield raised even before his first turn, once combat breaks out, will be in the front and draw the scorpion out to attack him if it is going to attack anybody, so that because he's more tanky than the others. And we have Ezrin at the back, so that he, one, as a wizard, he's not as durable, but also he hopes to use his range spells, and having distance between him and the target is going to be to his advantage. It's going to help protect him. And he can also use some of the terrain as cover, which I'll get into. And Poog, our cleric, is in the middle so that he can provide support and heal the party, and if necessary, use some of his offensive spells. Many offensive spells have a 30-foot range in Pathfinder. So that is what Merisiel will now initiate the combat, and initiative will be rolled. So the encounter now begins with the players rolling initiative. They all roll perception with the exception of Merisiel the rogue, who is avoiding notice, so she rolls stealth. Merisiel gets to act first. So Merisiel is going to move up to the scorpion, and she is an elf, so she has a high speed, and can go 30 feet. And then she will attack the scorpion, who is flat-footed to her because of her surprise attack ability. Because the scorpion has not acted yet, Merisiel gets to treat it as flat-footed, so its armor class is lowered by 2, and she gets to apply sneak attack damage. So 26, that is excellent. And the armor class of the scorpion, it is a higher level creature, is still 17, so that is not a critical hit. So she will apply regular damage and still get her sneak attack damage. And that is going to be 13. So very good start for this battle for the party. And the next thing she'll do is use defensive movement. So as a it's often very good to move away from the enemy, particularly a boss creature like a scorpion, so that they're forced to waste an action to move up to you. And this is particularly effective if you are faster than the enemy. And again, this forces the Scorpion to lose a third of his actions for the cost of 1/12 of the party's actions. So the next thing is that Valeros, his turn begins, so he stops losing the benefit of his raised shield. And he had discussed with the party how that they want the Scorpion to move up to the party. It keeps the party not split, and it allows them to support each other. And also forces the Scorpion to waste actions on movement. So might as well let them run up to you. So Valeros has only a melee weapon, and so he can't attack it from here. He has the option of delaying, which is useful sometimes, in which he would postpone his turn and wait until after another creature has acted. But if he were to do that, his shield would not be raised. So what he's going to do is take his turn and raise his shield again so that he can be protected against this incoming blow. Then he wants to ready an action to strike the Scorpion when it gets within melee reach. And readying requires 2 actions, and you define a trigger and what you'll do in response to that trigger, and what you do is limited to a single action. So it could be a strike in this case. But we know Valeros has a special ability called Combat Assessment, where he makes a strike, and if it connects, he gets to do a free recall knowledge about the enemy. So that's the action that he's going to ready. So the Scorpion is next. The Scorpion will now move up to Valeros, and unfortunately for Valeros, who was hoping that the Scorpion would run up to him, the Scorpion has a reach attack. It's going to attack with its stinger, which can extend 10 feet away. Now, according to Pathfinder rules, this is actually a 15-foot distance, but this is an exception to the measurement rules. The 10-foot reach reaches the second diagonal. But against Valeros, the Scorpion will now try to sting. And the stinger is going to connect with a 21 and do 9 damage. Now, at this time, Valeros will use his shield block reaction against this incoming damage. Valeros has a steel shield, which is an improvement on the wooden shield that's in the default pre-generated character. I don't know why he was given a wooden shield, but he has a steel shield, which has a hardness of 5 and 20 hit points, and the incoming damage is 9. So when he blocks, shield blocks, the shield's hardness of 5 is applied against that damage. So it goes from 9 to 4. Then the resulting number is applied both to the shield and to Valeros. So Valeros goes down to 16 health. The fact that he has a shield, which shields are great in this game if you have a free hand. They can be the difference between life and death. They not only prevent hits, but also prevent critical hits. And if you have the shield block reaction like Valeros does, you can soak damage with that shield. So he's the proper tank for this group. He's in the right place. He's where he needs to be. But the Scorpion, with its stinger, has the giant scorpion venom. So Valeros will need to do a fortitude saving throw to avoid this poison. Now, if he fails, he will go to stage 1 and get the effect of additional poison damage and get an enfeebled condition. And if he critically fails the save, he will go straight to stage 2. If he gets either, he's going to have to make subsequent saving throws to try to cast off this poison. So he will now make a fortitude save. And he succeeds. So he is not poisoned, fortunately. But the scorpion is not done. It's only used 2 actions. Again, higher level monsters are scary in Pathfinder 2e. It will now use its pincer, which is an agile weapon and is more accurate on the second attack that a creature makes. And it will miss, fortunately for the party. So next is Poog. Poog comes up, and he will want to, seeing this tough monster, he wants to cast one of his few spells per day, since he's level 1. He's going to cast Magic Weapon, which is a great spell. It basically turns his longsword into a +1 striking weapon, which means it gets a +1 item bonus to attack rolls, and also gets an extra die of damage. So that will be can be very, very crucial in this fight. So Magic Weapon will now be cast on Valeros. So Valeros will now have this spell effect on him, and this spell, like most spells, costs Poog 2 actions. So third action problem. What does he do now? Well, he doesn't see much point in walking away because Valeros, they want Valeros to take the hits, and Valeros is there. But what he's going to do is recall knowledge. Recall knowledge in Pathfinder 2e can find out really crucial information about a monster's weaknesses, resistances that you want to not go up against, special abilities that have counters to them. So what we'll do is do recall knowledge. It's going to be a nature skill check because it's an animal. Like all recall knowledge, the GM will roll this secretly. With the 22, he succeeds. Now, rules as written, the GM will give the most commonly known information about the monster. But I don't know many people who run it rules as written because, frankly, I think recall knowledge should be more generous. And in this case, the most common thing known would be that it is poisonous, but the party already knows this. So if I were the GM here, I would give something useful, reward the character for their foresight, and say that its saving throw that is the weakest is its will saving throw, which, as we can see, is +7 versus +12 and +9. So that could be useful information. I think the GM would, it would be completely fine to give a hero point to Poog's player as well for using recall knowledge. And you'll want to be generous with them against a tough battle like this will be. So it now gets to the wizard, Ezran. Now, we just had buffing. Now we'll want to try to do some debuffing against the scorpion. One common way to debuff is to demoralize, where you do an intimidation skill check against the will DC of an enemy and try to give them the frightened condition. It's a great thing to try. It lowers not only their defenses, including their armor class, but also their attacks. It is temporary, though, and you can only do it once every 10 minutes against a particular creature. He could try to do that, but there is a problem here in that it requires sharing a language with the target creature. You could actually still try it without knowing, without having a shared language, but there's a -4 circumstance penalty. But he does have a Scroll of Fear. Now, his spell selection, I want to note, has been chosen for versatility. He has Grease, Magic Missile, and Ray of Enfeeblement. He has chosen each to get a variety of to get spells that attack a variety of defenses. Magic Missile is automatic damage, so it ignores armor class. Grease is a spell that targets a reflex save of an enemy. Ray of Enfeeblement targets the fortitude save of an enemy. And he also brought a scroll along of Fear, which targets the will save. And Versatility in Pathfinder 2e is a quite valuable form of optimization. It's not simply about kicking up a single number to use in all situations. It's all about being able to adapt to a variety of challenges. And he got a scroll, which is a completely fine option. It's only 3 or 4 gold, I believe, a level 1 scroll for a wizard to bring along at level 1. So he's going to use his Fear Scroll. And here is the spell. It's going to target the scorpions. Well, the scorpion will have to do a will saving throw. So let's see how it does. It will roll a 15. And, oh, Ezrin was also acting, as I was implying with all that, was trying to target its lowest saving throw. And as we can see, its will save is +7, which is much lower than the +12 it gets for fortitude. And he was able to target this because of the recall knowledge. It's been often said, a lot of people who come into Pathfinder 2e are used to how spellcasters work in other editions and feel that spellcasters are much weaker in this edition. And they are weaker, but they're not as relative to how they are in other editions, but they're not necessarily weaker than martial characters. Ezrin here had the versatility to be able to target a weaker defense, whereas Valeros has to deal with the armor class. And that is something recall knowledge is very useful for, and gives casters the greater ability and potential accuracy if they use knowledge to their advantage. So here, by targeting will, it was the difference between success and failure. If he had used his grease spell, the reflex save would have succeeded. But here, the scorpion has failed. So the failure effect is to be frightened 2, which gives a -2 status penalty to its armor class, its attacks, its all of its saving throws. So he can set up yet another debuffing spell based on these weakened saving throws if he wants to, and get a cascade effect. This spell took 2 actions, and with his last action, he will move away because he has some spells that are have a long ranges, and he'd like to put some distance between himself and the scorpion. So we now move on to round 2. And as I said, it's often a good idea for the players to pay attention to the battlefield and talk to each other and come up with ideas. Here, they see that they have the scorpion has the frightened condition, which is not going to last long. That's going to go down by 1 at the end of every one of its turns. And so they want to press this advantage now. So they're going to be a little more offensive than usual. Merisiel the rogue would like it to be flat-footed to her so she can use her sneak attack. So she's not going to act yet. She's going to delay and leave the initiative order and hope Valeros can do something to set up a sneak attack. So Valeros will come up next. His shield goes down immediately. He has his magic weapon, longsword. What he'd like to do, though, is improve his positioning. So what he'd like to do is move right here so that this can provide flanking to Merisiel, who wants to go into this square right there. And the flat-footed condition stacks with the frightened condition. Flat-footed is circumstance penalty. Frightened is status penalty. So this would be a great thing to do. So he's going to walk forward. However, he's a little suspicious that since this is such a strong melee monster, that it might be one of the few monsters that have an attack of opportunity. So he's going to raise his shield before moving as his first action. Then he's going to try to walk over there. Well, as it turns out, the scorpion did have an attack of opportunity, and it's going to try to sting Valeros. And he had raised his shield to try to increase his armor class. So 27. That is gonna hurt. It would... Now, if it weren't frightened and if he had not raised his shield, it would be a critical hit at this time. But fortunately, because at least one of those things has happened, it's only going to be a regular hit. So the attack will land and do 11 damage. Now, Valeros has a choice. He has only one reaction. He can choose to shield block this and reduce the damage coming in, or he could preserve that reaction for his attack of opportunity. He's going to choose to not shield block and take the full damage and go down to 5 health. And he's going to have to make a fortitude save against the poison. And so this is a little risky. It might knock him out, but he does have a hero point, and so he's going to use that if it's necessary. Okay, a 2 is bad. 9 is bad. He's going to be poisoned and take a d10 of damage. And so he's going to use that hero point and try to succeed. Ooh, 17 would seem to fail. However, because it's frightened, its poison DC is lowered by 2. So he succeeds against the poison. So that has saved his life. He thanks Ezran for giving it a little fear. It affects all DCs, including poison. But it's flat and consistent. That Pathfinder is very consistent. Then Valeros continues moving over. Now he's going to try to do something else with his third action. He's going to try to trip the scorpion. Why do that? Merisiel will already be treating it as flat-footed. Well, if it's tripped, it additionally becomes prone, which gives it a -2 circumstance penalty to all of its attacks. Yet another debuff. And it also forces a creature to have to stand up and waste an action, which, as we said, is a good thing to do generally against a boss creature. And Valeros saved his attack of opportunity. So if it tries to stand up, he'll get to use his attack of opportunity and deal damage. So he will now target it and try to use his... he's going to roll athletics to try to trip it. Oh, but he needs a free hand. He's going to have to drop that shield, which is, not good, but he'll keep his magic weapon in hand. There are some weapons that have the trip trait, which he could use to trip an enemy without having to free up a hand. So to trip an enemy, it's going to be a athletics check versus the reflex DC of the scorpion. So he is now going to try to do that. A 17, which normally would fail against this scorpion, but again, because he's frightened, his reflex bonus went down from +9 to +7, and so Valeros' 17 succeeds. So the scorpion is going to be now prone, and he no longer has his shield raised, so that bonus goes away. So now Merisiel was delaying and now wants to jump into the initiative, and she's going to act next. So we now move on to Merisiel. Merisiel will go into flanking position and gets to treat the scorpion as flat-footed for 2 reasons. It is she is flanking the scorpion, and it is prone. So those don't stack. They just give the flat-footed condition, and then she's going to use the rapier attack. Okay, she's going to hit. And because it's in a compromised position, her second attack is also going to apply sneak attack damage. So we're going to roll damage on the rapier. It takes not much, it takes 7 damage. So she now makes a second attack with the dagger. And a 17 will hit, Normally it wouldn't, but again, it's flat-footed and frightened. And this will do 6 damage to the Scorpion. So all of these little hits are adding up. The Scorpion is next. The Scorpion will now try to stand to get out of this compromised prone condition. And Valeros now gets to do an attack of opportunity. Additionally, another reason why he flanked it was it gives him flanking on this attack of opportunity. Okay, a 12 does not hit, despite all of these debuffs. And the Scorpion will now try to wreak revenge and strike at Valeros. Okay, an 18 will hit Valeros. He doesn't have his shield raised, so it's going to do the following damage. It will damage him for 8, which knocks him out. Also, he still has to do this fortitude save, so he's immediately dying 1, and he's going to have to do the fortitude save against the poison, which he succeeds against, fortunately. So, the Scorpion then turns to Merisiel. The Scorpion has his 3rd action, and is going to try to hit her with a pincer. And a 13 misses. Okay, so Poog is here, and Valeros is 30 feet away. Again, they kept the formation tight, and he is within range to cast his heal spell. He's going to cast one of his Divine Font spells, and use 2 actions to try to heal Valeros. He will heal Valeros. It's just a question of how much, and restores 15 health to Valeros. So Valeros loses the dying condition and gains the wounded 1 condition, and remains prone. Poog, meanwhile, is going to use his 3rd action to walk here, still being close enough to provide support, but still wants to maintain a healthy distance away. He's a healer. He wants to preserve his own health so that he can raise people when necessary. One thing that I should mention now before I forget is that instead of tripping, another option that Valeros had was to grapple. Grapple would have also have required an athletics skill check, but it would have been targeting the fortitude DC instead of the reflex DC of the enemy. Now, let me explain what grapple does. Grapple would make the enemy flat-footed and immobilized and unable to use any action with the move trait. So it would have been another way to give Merisiel the opportunity to get sneak attack damage. But because they correctly guessed that as a big, tough melee creature, it probably had a strong fortitude save, he went with trip instead. So we now go to Ezrin's turn, who will now want to get behind cover, this rock here, which if the Scorpion were to come up to it, Ezrin would get a +2 circumstance bonus to armor class as if he were raising a shield. Just by standing behind cover, he does that. And also, he can do range attacks around the rock. So he could do his Ray of Frost spell, which is 120-foot range, which is excellent for that reason. He could theoretically just make Ray of Frost attack, then go back behind the next piece of cover, so that even if all the party dies, he can get another couple of rounds of ranged attacks against this enemy as it runs up to him. But instead, he remembers that it has a weak will saving throw, so he's going to use his Daze cantrip and hope for a Hail Mary. The Daze spell, if it critically fails on its will save against Daze, will become stunned, which also would take away its attack of opportunity. So Ezrin's going to cast Daze, and the Scorpion will try to do a will save. And with a 7, it actually does critically fail. Let's roll again to make this a little fairer on the Scorpion. Okay, there. 15. It's going to do 4 base mental damage because he has an intelligence bonus of 4. And with this regular failure, it will take 4 mental damage. Now, because the Scorpion's not stunned, it still has its attack of opportunity, which the party is now talking about. Who's going to draw this attack of opportunity? Right now, Valeros is in a pickle. He's on the ground, having just been knocked out, and he is prone. So they are going to come up with a plan. The plan is for Merisiel to draw this attack of opportunity from the Scorpion. She's at full health, and she has a decent armor class of 18. So that Valeros, with his magic weapon, could try to use that against the Scorpion. Now, Merisiel, meanwhile, will not simply run away. She's going to use her advantage while she has it. Oh, the Scorpion's frightened value went down by 1 in the meantime. So at this time, Valeros decides to delay so that Merisiel can act first. So Merisiel comes up, and instead of just walking away and drawing the attack of opportunity from the Scorpion, she is going to try to get in some jabs first. Fortunately, because Valeros was healed first, Valeros now threatens the Scorpion, and so she's going to benefit from flanking. So she's going to make her attack with her rapier. And a 15 will miss. Almost hit. She's going to try one more time with her dagger. And that also misses. So she is going to try to walk away. She's going to try to also make some distance. She's going to try to walk there. However, before reaching there, the Scorpion will do an attack of opportunity. And the 24 will hit her. So she takes the following damage. She takes 12 damage. She is almost knocked out. And she has to make a fortitude save. Okay, she succeeded. Now, if she had failed, there could be an argument for her to use that hero point of hers. A lot of players save that hero point to auto-stabilize as insurance against dying if they're dying out. But one skill to learn is judicious use of your hero points aggressively so that you can prevent bad outcomes that lead to you dying in the first place. And you want to have more characters on their feet, obviously. Well, fortunately, she succeeded and is able to move on. Now it becomes Valeros' turn, who is now going to jump back into the initiative. Valeros is going to stand up without fear now that he knows that it's used its attack of opportunity. Now, there are some monsters that have more than one attack of opportunity, but they're not likely going to meet them at level 1. So he stands up, uses his second action to pick up that magic sword. So he's now going to try to attack the Scorpion. Okay, a 1 will not hit. So the Scorpion will try to attack Valeros. And 20 is going to hit. And do 9 damage. And he's going to have to do a fortitude save against the poison again. And an 11 does not succeed, so he is going to go to stage 1 of the poison and take 9 damage, which knocks him out and puts him at enfeebled 1 on top of that. And because he's wounded 1, instead of dying 1, he becomes dying 2. His wounded value gets added, so he is poisoned. He's at dying 2. he actually could die on his next turn if he fails his recovery check and his poison save. So he has that hero point ready to help stabilize him. The GM, I probably should say, the GM would have given him a hero point for his recent heroics, so I think he will have a hero point at this time. So the Scorpion uses its third action to then go over to Merisiel and try to attack her on its next turn. His turn ends, his frightened value goes down by 1. Next is Poog. Poog is still within range of Merisiel and can and wants to give her some support and prevent her from getting knocked out. So he's going to cast Heal on her. So he's going to cast the 2-action version of Heal, which has a range of 30 feet and heals 1d8 plus 8. And he returns 12 health to Merisiel, which should put her back to full. With his last action, he wants to help Merisiel and Ezrin with their next actions. The party says, why don't you distract him with one of your annoying, repetitive Goblin songs? So he will do that. He will use, it has a range of 30 feet, and he's going to do a perform check against its will DC, against its ability to withstand mental attacks. So here we go. It will be a performance check against the Scorpion. And with an 18, another reason why he's doing this is because he knows its will save is low. He will succeed against the Scorpion. So it is now has the effects of Goblin Song for 1 round. The Scorpion will have a -1 status penalty to perception checks and will saves. So Ezrin is next, and he would like to try to catch the Scorpion flat-footed on top of that. So he has the option of trying to hide. Since he's behind cover right now, he can hide. If he's behind cover or in concealment, he can do the hide action, which would be stealth check versus its perception DC, which is now lowered because of the Goblin Song. The problem is he's not very good at that, at stealth. So what he will... Yeah, he only has a +2 bonus. So instead, what he will do is do his Ray of Frost attack and try to do some direct damage, and then use his third action for something else. So here comes Ray of Frost, and he will target the giant Scorpion. And his 23 will hit, and he inflicts 7 cold damage. So it is at 8 health right now. And with Ezrin's last action, he will take cover, which increases the cover from the rock to greater cover. So he will now get a +4 bonus to his armor class, +4 circumstance bonus, which is huge in this game. Next, Merisiel will like to get some sneak attack in, so she wants the Scorpion to be flat-footed. There's no one flanking the Scorpion, so she has 2 ways to go about this. She could walk up to it and try to feint using a deception skill check with an action, and then use her last action to attack if that succeeds. She would have to step up instead of stride in order to avoid provoking reactions. Step is a special movement action that does not provoke, but it can only go 5 feet. Well, her other option is to create a diversion, where she uses, she points at something, says something to distract the enemy, and she does a deception check against its perception DC, which is lowered because of the Goblin Song. If she succeeds, she will gain the hidden condition, which I'll explain the benefits of in a second. Let's see if this succeeds. So she will do a deception check, and with an 18, the Scorpion's perception DC, which is normally 19, has been lowered because of the Goblin Song, so that's going to succeed. So now, when she's hidden, if she were to make an attack right now, it would be flat-footed to her, and that's an option. If she can do a ranged attack right now, and create a diversion is a way to make something flat-footed to you from a distance. And you can only do this once per battle without penalty. Any subsequent checks will have a +4 to the target's perception DC, I believe. And so that's one thing she could do. Another is she could, well, anything else she would do would also make her lose the hidden condition because she's out in the open. She doesn't have cover or concealment. However, there are exceptions to that rule. She can sneak somewhere using the sneak action. She can do a step, and she can also hide. So what you can do is step up to the Scorpion so that she can get that extra damage she gets in melee, in addition to her sneak attack damage, and she remains hidden, no check needed. So the Scorpion is now flat-footed to her, and she will make her rapier attack. Oh, and she does a critical hit. So she is going to get that extra deadly D8 from the rapier, and she's going to double her base damage that she's rolling. And she's getting sneak attack added into that base damage. She does 29 damage. She has defeated the Scorpion, and the party has won. So with that, just want to reiterate the general advice from the beginning and say what's coming up. So we have gone over, and I believe, I hope that through this example I've shown that you definitely want to have full hit points going into a battle. If these party members had gone in just even with a few hit points less, this could have gone quite differently. We also saw many uses of the third action. We saw all the characters use not simply an attack with their at a very low bonus with their third action. We saw them do other things like recalling knowledge, raising a shield, taking cover, creating a diversion before the attacks. And those are, I would definitely recommend getting in the habit of thinking in those terms. Also, they were working together. The players were coming up with collective plans, trying to set up the next turn, trying to set up another player's action. And people were paying attention to each other's turn to look for those opportunities. Hero points. We also saw aggressive use of hero points, people using them not simply to stabilize, but also to try to get positive outcomes at key points. And the GM also rewarding hero points, and doing so in a manner in which I recommend in a very difficult fight to be generous with them. And we saw that versus a boss, that they worked to deny actions to the boss, to the Scorpion, forcing it to move to engage in melee, forcing it to stand up, creating distance between themselves and it, which all effectively denied actions. And also we saw them stacking bonuses and stacking buffs and debuffs to get the math to work for them. Usually higher level creatures seem unhittable, or they seem like they automatically crit multiple times. But if you are working together to weaken it in some way, you can succeed. And effectively, giving that frightened 2 condition in this encounter was almost the equivalent of lowering its level by 1, according to how the weak template for monsters works, which is to give a -2 to all of its stats and to somewhat lower its hit points. So it's very powerful to inflict debuffs in this game. So with that, I hope this video was useful. This is the first in a 2-part series where I'm going over strategies and tactics to improve your success at combat in Pathfinder 2e. And please like and subscribe to get alerted about the next video, where we're gonna go somewhat higher level and look at how some class feats and builds can be used to create more synergies within the party and bring success at the table. So I hope that this was useful for all of you. Please leave comments. Comments are the food of YouTubers and motivates us to keep on going. And I hope to stay motivated to make more videos that are useful for the community, for people to learn Pathfinder 2e and also get their friends to try it out. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.